Patriots, this is wild. People are saying that Jake Paul lost hundreds of millions of dollars on the fight that he was supposed to win. But that Anthony Joshua went against the tongue sign script and pounded him out. And what happened? Look at what happened. Anthony Joshua allegedly, kind of suspiciously, was involved in an accident that almost took his life. It took the life of 2 other people. So a lot of people are questioning what is going on.
Shocking news just flipped the internet upside down. Jake Paul is allegedly on the move. The internet flipped the moment the story broke because Jake Paul's name collided with Anthony Joshua's name. And suddenly the gossip mill went into overdrive. With fans, critics, and content creators treating the situation like a live crime documentary. Asking what really happened behind closed doors.
Really created a perfect storm.
What's going on?
What's up, Floyd?
I can have what I want.
What you mean with the camera? Oh, you got camera too. So what you supposed to be? I'm just working, fam.
What happened? You're not tough anymore since your loss? What happened since your loss? Yo, we gonna bust him up, guys?
I told you to put that.
Yo, let's bust him up. Where you running, Jake? Where you going since your fight? Since you lost? What's up, Jake? Where you going, Jake?
Why the timing felt explosive, and whether fame, money, and boxing politics had finally sparked a perfect storm. What turned this from ordinary celebrity drama into something radioactive was the sudden emergence of law enforcement language. Because once federal agents and a celebrity mansion are mentioned in the same breath, logic exits the room and imagination takes the wheel. And Jake Paul instantly became the center of a narrative.
Confirmed that Jake Paul's home was being raided by the FBI. News station helicopters got footage and pictures of Jake Paul's house being
Oh, they taking his guns and stuff. So there's got to be something gun related. Like, damn. But that's a sticky situation right there.
Photos show the FBI SWAT team seizing guns, several guns. According to the local ABC station, the weapons included a long gun that was next to the hot tub in the backyard. This search is part of an ongoing investigation, and no arrests have been made.
Where silence felt louder than any statement he could have made. Reports about an FBI search at Jake Paul's Calabasas property arrived with the force of a cinematic trailer, complete with aerial shots, tactical gear, sealed warrants, and zero details. And that absence of explanation gave the internet permission to stitch together old headlines, past controversies, and long-held suspicions into a story that felt real merely because it felt dramatic.
This is Jake Paul's house. Just got raided by the FBI. What could this guy be possibly into now?
Connect outside of YouTube. Twitter was buzzing with photos and videos of SWAT teams at Jake Paul's house yesterday. And no, they are not fake. The FBI and a SWAT team showed up at Jake Paul's house with a search warrant. The search began at 6 a.m. in connection with an ongoing investigation, according to FBI spokeswoman Laura I. Miller. Jake was not at home at the time. Unfortunately for T channels and everyone else that wants to know the scoop, the judge sealed the search warrant affidavit, so we don't actually know too much about why Jake Paul's...
As soon as officials refused to spell out exactly what they were hunting for, the online world did what it always does best, which is turn speculation into sport, because Jake Paul is not treated like a normal athlete, but like an episodic series. And every new development is framed as the next shocking chapter, rather than a disconnected legal or logistical issue. This is where the conversation slid from boxing news into mythology.
Any thoughts on AJ and the families?
Yeah, it's all prayers and blessings for Cena and Lots and Anthony, and I've kept them in my prayers. And it's such a tragic situation that we don't wish upon anybody. And I'm sending love to all of them and keeping them in our prayers. And I think everybody else should do the same. And we have so much love, and things are so much bigger than boxing and living life. And we're just all blessed to be here, and we all have to be grateful for that, because you never know what's next.
Because Jake Paul's career already lives on the fault line between athlete and entertainment product, and the resurfacing of claims about controlled fights, protected outcomes, and brand-first matchmaking tossed gasoline on a fire that had been quietly burning for years among skeptical fans. This is where the alleged fleeing story enters, because the Anthony Joshua angle intensified everything.
When you lose hundreds of millions of dollars, people do not take it too kindly, and I can see the Vegas odds if they're saying, look, he wins, he always wins, it's going to happen in the 6th round. But no, Anthony Joshua said, not on my clock. I'm going to break his jaw in 2. 2, Johnny. Make it 2, Utah. Make it 2. What do you guys think about this? I don't know. Is this conspiracy theory? Is there some truth to it? I don't know. I don't know, but it does seem pretty suspicious that it happened so soon after.
Because Joshua represents the brutal reality of elite heavyweight boxing, a man forged through real danger and real consequences. And when his name is placed next to Jake Paul's, people start talking about physics, pedigree, and survival, rather than hype, which makes any unexpected results feel suspicious by default. At the same time, others argued that capitalism does not need secret scripts to produce chaos.
You know, for me, in my opinion, I think it's scripted a little bit because, you know, of the weight difference, and, you know, Joshua is a former, you know, champion. And also, you know, he's current, he's active, you know, and this is going to be the first time that we see Paul, you know, fighting an active fighter. You know what I mean? We seen the Mike Tyson, that was all fun, that was cute, you know what I'm saying? It's fun and games and stuff, but now you're dealing with a real professional, you know, and so we'll see how it ends up you know, like I said, I think it's scripted.
Because promotional power, timing, and opponent selection can shape narratives without ever writing a line on paper. And Jake Paul's defenders pointed out that he trains seriously, steps into the ring, and endures real risk that most internet personalities would never accept. When the debate hardened, because both sides were holding fragments of the truth, as Jake Paul is undeniably a trained fighter.
Jake would have won. Everyone would have known it was rigged. He couldn't win that fight. So he said, let me get to round 5. Let me get there, because if I can get there, then everyone can make money. And the second round 4 hit, Anthony was ready. It was so obvious. It's so gross to me that I participated in this because I wanted to see him get knocked out. And that's exactly what he knows to be true. Most people want to see him get knocked out.
And undeniably a calculated brand. And once the public decides a boxer is a marketing machine first, every punch pause and performance gets interpreted through this lens, whether fair or not. When the fight itself failed to deliver the destruction, some viewers fantasized about disappointment quickly mutated into certainty. And certainty took the form of scripting accusations, leaked plans, and alleged agreements, because it is emotionally easier to believe in a rigged outcome than to accept that reality often produces awkward, unsatisfying endings.
I heard a lot of people saying, congratulations to Jake Paul for being brave to step in the ring with Anthony Joshua. Not many people will want to step in the ring with Anthony Joshua. Let me tell you something. If someone paid me $80 million to fight Anthony Joshua, I'm stepping in there tomorrow, right? No training, no nothing. I'm leaving straight from work. I fly to Miami and I'll get my jaw broken for $80 million, no problem. And I'm sure there will be millions.
The alleged fleeing narrative feeds off that emotional connection because it frames events like a drama. Online supposed leaks and predictions were treated like gospel rather than coincidence or fan fiction, and the logic became self-sealing because any denial was labeled a cover-up, any uncertainty was framed as proof, and the narrative no longer needed facts to survive, only attention and repetition. This is where the alleged fleeing story gained traction, because once enough people repeat a claim, it stops being a question and becomes a plot point.
He's going to get a load of money to knock Jake Paul's spark out. That's it, mate. I want to see him get chinned. I do. And if we're going to get paid a fortune for the pleasure, sign me up. That's it. That's it. You know, I mean, I'm kind of past the days of trying to spin it to you. Better off saying to the fan, why are you doing this? For the money and for the giggles. That's really what it is. But I said to him, this ain't magic, mate. This guy could take your head off your shoulders.
The alleged fleeing narrative feeds off that emotional connection because it frames events like a dramatic.
With Jake Paul portrayed as a man choosing distance over confrontation after pressure, supposedly spiked following new reports connected to the Anthony Joshua accident. The idea of Jake Paul fleeing the country spread fast because it hit every viral trigger at once, combining celebrity scandal, sports fraud suspicion, and the irresistible image of a famous figure trying to outrun consequences. Even though travel alone proves nothing, and movement is routine for people operating at his level, the harsh reality for Jake Paul is that optics have become evidence in the court of public opinion.
Jake Paul has some big-ass balls, bro. No diddy. You know, it's just like to go in there with one of the best heavyweights to ever do it, Anthony Joshua, Olympian. You know, was he a gold medalist? Yeah. Gold medalist. Wow. Gold
2012.
That's what I'm saying. So, you know, my respects to, obviously, Jake, because, man, that took a lot, and he's robbing the bank, man. He's promoter. He's
because staying put looks like hiding, leaving looks like running, and speaking looks like spinning. which means every normal action is reinterpreted as guilt once the internet decides the verdict in advance. Fight-fixing accusations carry a darker shadow because the moment sports betting enters the conversation, the stakes jump from gossip to legality, and promoters push back aggressively, not just to defend Jake Paul, but to protect the credibility of an entire system that depends on fans believing competition still matters. In the end, this story works because it blends verified reporting with rumor and dares the audience to tell the difference, turning Jake Paul into a symbol of modern fame where attention replaces trust, spectacle replaces patience, and every controversy feeds a larger morality, play about power, influence, and the cost of living under constant scrutiny. The law enforcement angle only amplifies that chaos because once official institutions brush up against celebrity culture, every silence feels intentional, every delay feels suspicious, and every routine procedure gets reinterpreted as evidence of something massive unfolding behind the scenes, even when no facts actually support that conclusion. Yet at the end of the day, this entire saga says as much about the audience as it does about Jake Paul or Anthony Joshua, because fans are not just watching fights anymore, they are watching narratives, and once a fighter becomes a story instead of just a competitor, every punch trip or plane ticket becomes part of a myth that refuses to slow down from a human perspective. The Jake Paul situation feels less like a clean scandal and more like a mirror being held up to how modern combat sports are consumed, because names like Jake Paul and Anthony Joshua no longer exist only as athletes, but as symbols. And when those symbols collide, fans stop asking what is true and start asking what feels right to believe when you step back and look at Anthony Joshua's name. In all of this, it becomes obvious why emotions run so high, because Joshua represents legitimacy earned through pain losses, comebacks, and real danger, and that history makes people instinctively protective of him, while simultaneously suspicious of anyone they believe entered the sport through fame rather than fire.
So they're going to tune in, and guess what we got? Jake Paul getting knocked out. He also made a lot of fucking money, and we are all just consuming it. If you believe in astrology, you will know this to be true. I looked up his natal chart. It's mostly earth energy. Everything he's doing is a fucking act. It's an act. He doesn't act that way at home. I guarantee it. He is a Capricorn, Sun, Mercury, Venus, Libra, Mars, and a Taurus moon. There's no way he acts like that at home.
Jake Paul, whether people like it or not, has become a lightning rod for that resentment because his success forces uncomfortable questions about merit, access, and promotion. And instead of confronting those questions directly, many fans choose the easier route of assuming manipulation scripts or hidden agreements, since those ideas protect their belief in how boxing is supposed to work. What gets lost in the noise is that multiple things can be true at once because Jake Paul can be a calculated brand, Anthony Joshua can be a genuine fighter, and the boxing business can still be ruthless and cynical without crossing into outright conspiracy. But nuance does not travel well online when outrage flies faster and pays better.